Hi, I'm Erica from the Pancake Princess.
And I'm Elisa from Salted Dry.
And today we are tasting our way through 9 different glazed yeast donut recipes. So I was worried for this bake-off that they would all taste and look the same, but there are actually a lot of different factors, from using bread flour to all-purpose flour, putting potato in the dough, using oil versus butter in the dough. So they all turned out very differently, and we are gonna taste our way through all 9 recipes and tell you our thoughts on each. This recipe is by Saveur, and this one stood out because it uses shortening in the dough, and it also uses clarified butter and evaporated milk in the glaze, which we thought made it look the most like a Krispy Kreme donut. Okay,
Yay.
donut cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, I feel like this donut is really fluffy. I love the crust on the outside, and the inside kind of like melts in your mouth, but it's also very oily.
Yeah, I can see that. Once you bite into it, the oil kind of comes at you. But yeah, it's texturally, it's very soft.
Yeah, there's like a nice open crumb. I feel like there was a note in the article about how fat attracts fat, and so like put less fat in the dough. There wasn't a particularly high amount of fat in this donut, but it's just very oily. So it could have been maybe like fryer error, but overall love the texture of this donut, but the flavor is very greasy, and like the texture also kind of leaves like an oily residue.
Very soft too. Good color too.
Yeah.
The glaze is pretty unique too for this recipe. There is clarified butter, so maybe that contributes to the oiliness.
Yeah, that could have like soaked into the donut and like really made it.
Or because you're biting into it, it's like one of the first notes you'll taste in a donut. So maybe like going in, you're already like tasting the oil a bit.
Yeah, that's true. We liked the look of it because it looks very much like a Krispy Kreme with kind of like a translucent glaze, but yeah, maybe that's why it tasted so oily. This recipe is by Binging with Babish, and this recipe stood out because it uses all egg yolks, and the glaze was very, very thick, probably the thickest of any of the ones we tried.
Binging.
Yay. I feel like this one has a really nice chew to it. Like the crumb is nice and tight, and it's chewy, but not too chewy, like toothsome.
Yeah, I like the smell of it too. Like when I was biting into it, I was like, wow, very pleasant.
Yeah,
but
kind of
did
yeasty.
you think it was dry?
Yeah, it's a little dry.
Dry to me.
Which could be user error. So when I was making the batter, it was super runny, so I added a little bit of extra flour to just get it to come off the mixer wall when I was mixing. But you've made this dough a lot. Does this seem like what you normally?
No, mine doesn't. It's not this dry.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so it might be due to the extra flour. So baker's error in this case. But overall, I think the glaze, I thought it was gonna be way too sweet, but it's like actually not bad. I like how crackly it is.
And visually, the glaze is great because it's very opaque.
Yeah, and I think it helps kind of with the dryness of the donut. So overall, great donut. I think like good amount of chew, good amount of like crumb,
Good flavor. Good flavor too, yeah.
Yeah, would try to make again and not add more flour. This recipe is by Mel's Kitchen Cafe, and I was intrigued by this recipe because she has tried a lot of donut recipes. She says it's her foolproof recipe. I think it's kind of similar to both New York Times and King Arthur, but slightly different ratios of like milk, butter, sugar, egg. So let's try it. Okay. Cheers. That's like a donut shop donut. Okay, I love the texture on this one.
Same. I don't know if you see it, but when I bit into mine, there's like the middle area kind of gets like, dense in the middle. I love that when donuts do that.
Yeah, it felt really dense when I was poking it, but it's kind of the perfect balance of like chewy and light.
Exactly.
Like it's not too dense.
Yeah.
This is like what I think of when I think of like a donut at a donut shop.
Really good.
Yeah.
Love that one.
Flavor, great. Glaze, great. Love it. Would make it again.
Yeah.
This recipe is by Chef Steps. This is the only recipe to use all bread flour. It uses both oil and butter in the dough, and it calls for a diastatic malt powder, which is optional, but we tried using it.
Yay, another one. Oh my gosh, I love this one so much. It might be my favorite so far.
I love how chewy it is. Like great crumb on this.
Yeah, and it tastes like honey to me. Are you getting that?
I'm not getting so much honey flavor, but it's like a really nice bready flavor. Super
so
chewy.
Good. I love it. Are you seeing the crust, or do you feel like you expected more crust?
Okay, so these were the most brown of all of the donuts that we made, and we thought it was because it was fried at the highest temperature, but it's actually not. I think it's from the diastatic malt powder, which is said to promote a good rise, good texture, and like a really good crust. So I think that in conjunction with the bread flour makes it super chewy. I don't actually remember if there's honey in this recipe, but
I taste it though.
but you did have issues making this dough, right?
Yeah, the dough wasn't coming clean off the bowl, so I'm not sure if we could have kept it going longer, but this is perfect to me as is. So
Yeah.
even if it doesn't come clean, you can still get good donuts.
Yeah, a great chewy donut. I feel like very bready, but like good flavor.
Yes, so good flavor.
This recipe is by Bravetart. This is one of 2 recipes that uses potato in the dough. This one uses butter versus the other recipe uses oil. This also adds a little bit of baking soda and some nutmeg.
Bravetart. That one is so soft.
Yeah, I would say this is one of my favorite textures so far. I love a soft donut. I don't love them too chewy. Like, I like Chef Steps, but this is like my ideal amount of chew. Like, it's just so pillowy, like it squishes in your mouth.
Yeah, I love that. And you can tell too in the middle when you chew it, there's kind of an indentation.
Yeah, it just kind of like compresses together. And I like that you can kind of see the nutmeg, and I feel like it just adds that like settled donut flavor.
Rustic. It reminds me of fall with the nutmeg. It's so good.
Do you think the potato made it soft?
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised.
Like the extra potato, or the potato gives it extra starch maybe?
Yeah, moisture too.
Yeah.
And I think it adds to the complexity of the flavor with the nutmeg. So good.
Ugh, great donut.
Yes.
Loved it. This recipe is by Female Foodie. It is a Windmill Village Bakery copycat recipe adapted from Taste of Home. This is the second recipe to use potato in the dough, but the main difference between this and Bravetart is that it uses oil in the dough instead of butter.
Yay.
Yay. This one's very airy, but it doesn't squish in the same way that Bravetart squished.
Yeah, it just stays, right?
Yeah, it's like a very even crumb. I'm getting kind of oily vibes the same way that Saveur was a little bit oily.
Yeah. But do you see anything from the potato? Do you think that the moisture is here? Or?
Yeah, maybe it is very moist. Like the crumb
is
is very nice and
fluffy.
plush.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the greasiness again, I don't know. It could be like our frying. It could be that it was a little underproofed. Maybe we would fry it in higher temperature oil next time.
Yeah. But it's been a couple of hours and it's not dense, I would say. So
it's still very fluffy. So I would say if you want like a really fluffy, airy donut, this is a great option. And they're also meant to be eaten like super fresh. So I would try these and not just eat them at room temperature, like eat them fresh out of the fryer. This recipe is by New York Times. It is kind of the standard benchmark recipe, uses all of like the normal ingredients like all-purpose flour, milk, butter, eggs. Very similar to other popular recipes like Joshua Weissman, Sally's Baking Addiction, Serious Eats, Pioneer Woman. I really like this one.
For me, it's like a very strong vanilla.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the glaze or the donut. Do you think?
I guess I can try
maybe it's the
glaze.
dough too. But yeah, good flavor from the dough. It just kind of like melts in your mouth.
Yeah.
It's not chewy like most other donuts.
Super soft when you bite into it. It's just like air, like a cloud.
Yeah, just like a little vanilla cloud. That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
This recipe is by Natasha's Kitchen. This one stood out because it uses egg yolks, vanilla, and oil in the dough, but the secret ingredient is using scalded milk. Scalded milk is heated to, I think, 180 degrees, then cooled back down, and that the heating process denatures the whey protein, which can hinder gluten formation. So that means when the gluten formation is not hindered, it creates a fluffier, springier donut.
Cheers.
I feel like this is another toothsome one. Like it's not chewy, but it's not melt in your mouth either. It's kind of in between.
For me, it has a good mouthfeel. Like I enjoyed biting into it.
Yeah, really satisfying bite.
Yeah.
And I also think the glaze is really nice too. Like good
Color?
like opacity, good crackliness, good flavor. Although I'm not sure I'm getting that much flavor from the donut itself. Are you?
I'm getting the vanilla.
Yeah.
It
does smell
dry.
like vanilla.
It looks dry, but it's actually not when you bite into it.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a smaller donut. It's not as like poofy as the other ones, but I would say if you kind of want an in-between, like not super chewy, not like melt in your mouth, this is a good just like middle of the road in terms of like the texture and then like great glaze. So
Yes.
really enjoyed this one. This recipe is by Claire Saffitz. This is from her Gourmet Makes Krispy Kreme video, and this recipe stood out because it uses honey, oil, and butter in the dough. This is one of the only recipes to use vanilla, and it also uses refined coconut oil in the glaze.
very unique in flavor.
Yeah, this one I get a lot of honey in the flavor.
Oh, right. So this dough had the honey.
And it's a little saltier to me than some other doughs.
Yeah, when I bit into it, I was like, oh, this is kind of savory, but then you get the hint of honey, so then it balances. So it's
I really love that salty honey flavor.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And then it reminds me of, I can't remember what donut we just ate that's not chewy, it's not melt in your mouth, but it's just kind of like that toothsome texture.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't, the dough doesn't condense in the middle when you bite into it. It just stays there.
Yeah, the structural integrity is great.
The crumb almost looks like a cake donut to me.
It does, actually, yeah. It's a little bready, I would say.
Yeah.
But
good flavor. I think good flavor, most favorite flavor out of the 9.
Yeah, love the glaze on this. Okay, of all 9 donuts, what was your favorite, Elisa?
Oh my gosh, so hard to choose. I think flavor, Bravetart was really good. And then texturally, Chef Steps for me.
I think for me, flavor was maybe Claire because I just love that honey, salty honey flavor.
Yeah.
And then texturally, I think I might go for Bravetart because I just love that squishy donut texture. But it's so hard to say because I also love the like melt in your mouth of New York Times, and I love the chewiness of like Binging with Babish, Mel's Kitchen Cafe, and I love Claire's. I mean, it's really hard to pick just one.
So basically all of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really hard to go wrong with donuts, but the moral here is that like they're very different.
Yeah.
And so if you want like a chewy yeast donut versus like a melt in your mouth versus like middle of the road, there's lots of different options, lots of different glazes to try. We hope you enjoyed this overview of all 9 glazed yeast donut recipes. Let us know in the comments what bake-off you'd like to see next. Please follow Elisa at Salted Rye on Instagram. She's amazing. Give us a like and subscribe if you would like to see more videos, and see you next time. Okay, let us, ooh, that was a good practice one.